Well, hello, everyone. My name is Sandeep Burman. I work at the State Department of Health for Minnesota, and my job is to administer the drinking water supplies for Minnesota. So what that means is the group that I had at the Department of Health, we oversee and assist all of the public water suppliers in the state to deliver clean, safe water and to do that in adequate quantities. So my interest in the drinking water field probably starts from my high school years. I grew up in India, and my high school principal, who was an avid mountain climber, he really had a lot of programs in our school that got us into the mountains to do big hikes. So I got introduced to the outdoors, and my love for the outdoors got me interested in the environment, and it got me interested in how things work in the natural world. So how do mountains form, and how do the different landscapes form, and especially the role of water in all of that. So that led me to an interest in geology, and I had a cousin who was a geologist, and it seemed to me that he had a very exciting life. He used to work in mines and oil rigs, and it just seemed like he was traveling a lot and really doing all this exciting hands-on work. And it was pretty clear to me that geology wasn't, all fun and games and being outside. There's a lot of physics and math and chemistry and biology, and pretty much every aspect of science gets involved into being a good geologist. So I went to my undergraduate in India, where I studied geology and the engineering aspects of geology, because geology is what you need to know when you're building roads and bridges and tunnels and all of those things. You really need to understand what kind of ground the structure is sitting on. So that got me interested into the engineering things. And along with that, I also had this keen interest in water, how water shapes the landscape, how water affects all of our lives. And I wanted to do my higher studies in something that included water and geology and engineering and the environment as a whole. So that brought me to the United States, to the University of Minnesota, where I got a master's in hydrogeology, otherwise known as groundwater geology. And I also got a minor in civil engineering, again, trying to combine both the natural world and the world that we build on top of it, just trying to make all of that work hand in hand. My interests are still very much to do with the outdoors. Haven't lost that. There are not very many mountains in Minnesota, but Minnesota offers a fascinating landscape. I love going to the boundary waters. I love canoeing. My goal is to visit all of the state parks. My family, fortunately for me, shares those interests. I have two daughters who are in high school, and my wife, and we do a lot of these things together. So, and Minnesota is just a fabulous place to do that. We also travel a lot. We've been to many parts of the US, again, looking for outdoor adventures. So that is definitely where I think my interest and passion still lies, is being able to be outside. So I work with a very large group of very, very well qualified and very, very dedicated professionals in the Department of Health. We work together to keep the state's drinking water supply safe. And there's a lot of disciplines, a lot of professions that exist in my team. We have engineers and hydrologists and geologists and chemists and communicators and public health experts. Just it takes a lot of work to oversee and make sure that the water supplies of the state are safe and clean and adequate, and everybody in Minnesota has good quality water in their homes and businesses and where they work. So what the part that's really critical to understand is that when you deal with anything that's complicated, it really isn't about one person or about one skill set. And it's also not about one scientific aspect. It's really, everything has to work hand in hand together. And that's true for all of the STEM discipline. There's very little that can be accomplished by just physics or just chemistry or just maths or just biology. It all has to work hand in hand together. And that's how the real world really works. And you take classes in school and college, you study one subject in the class, but in the real world, it all gets put together. So I think that's an important thing to remember, is that you may really enjoy one subject, or you may not like another subject. But at the end of the day, it's how you put them all together. So you don't have to be an expert in everything. It's how you put it all together, how you apply it. That's what really sets up projects and work for success. And I see that in my team. We have so many diverse talents, so many diverse backgrounds, but we all have to put it together and solve the problems and keep the water supplies flowing. It doesn't matter, again, how much of a technical expert you are. You have to be able to work with people. You have to understand your strengths and your weaknesses, and recognize those in your teammates and your partners, and then just do things that help it all come together into one complete whole. So that ability to really recognize what people need from you and how they want you to present things to them to get the best out of them and to get the best out of yourself. So our days in the state drinking water program at the Department of Health are very exciting, and we are essentially a 24/7 program because water doesn't get turned off. You have water at your homes 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So which means that we are on the job all the time, as are the very dedicated people that work in your city that keep the water flowing. So our days are filled with just the routine things we do. We have to do a lot of testing of all the waters across the state to make sure they're safe. We do a lot of training and education to keep all the city staff and all the operators licensed and certified. They need that to be able to operate drinking water supplies, because that's such a critical public health issue that you have to be a certified operator to really operate the city's drinking water system. So we provide a lot of that certification, education, and licensing. We do a lot of communication with the public because people are getting more and more interested and aware of their drinking water, which is a great thing. We'd rather have people be interested than be indifferent to what's coming out of their tap. So we do a lot of technical work. We do a lot of communication every day. We do a lot of training and education. We do a lot of problem solving. So COVID was an unprecedented, situation. Being the work that we do, we're used to dealing with emergencies. And so we have a lot of plans for dealing with emergencies, dealing with crisis, but no one had a plan for something like COVID. And COVID has changed us in ways that we never thought were possible. We never thought we could make some of these changes and keep our program going, but we have evolved. And the biggest impact was we are a very hands-on program. We are out there working with all the cities, working with all the public water supplies. We are in the treatment plants, in the water supply infrastructure pieces. We're testing, we're sampling, we're engineering. So you have to be out there working. We couldn't do that during COVID. The cities were shutting down. They were making sure that their staff were safe. So they were really cutting down on who they were allowing their staff to meet and work with. They were rotating their schedules. They would only allow small teams to work at a time, just so they could keep, even within their own staff, they could keep people isolated. We had to do the same thing. So it became a very big challenge to just figure out how to manage our personnel, to keep the work happening, but keep people safe, keep them from having too much contact with each other or with our partners. And even when that contact happened, we had to do things that we'd never done before: wear masks and stay a safe distance apart, and wash and sanitize your hands all the time. One thing I really learned, this wasn't that clear to me in high school, because in high school I always believed, you're going to have a real passion for something, and somehow that passion will translate into finding a major in college or just a distinct, clear pathway that's going to line up perfectly with your interests. What I've learned is that the world doesn't really work that way. There are very few professions which are very one-dimensional, where you just have to be an expert in one thing and really like that one thing, and that's going to lead to a satisfying career. You have to be a little bit of a generalist. You have to keep your options open. You have to have the mindset where you're willing to absorb more than one thing at a time, and try to be good at more than one thing, even if you may not necessarily like everything, but you should really try and see the connections. What are the other things that really are extensions of your central passion or the subject you like the most?